Oh, hello all, and welcome to this show that we have organized. Now that the league stage is over, the familiar faces have reconvened to discuss the six teams that are not in the playoffs. We are here to talk about the bottom six teams. How was their season? Were there any silver linings? And just look at the way forward for them in terms of what they can do to uh, solve the issues that we've identified this season, so as to put them in a better position 10 months from now. So since there's a lot to discuss, without further ado, we'll just get started. We'll move in the sort of from the lowest ranks team to team that ended number five. So we'll begin with the Sunrisers, and I think Nikhil will be the one who will be having the first dabs at Sunrisers. So Nikhil, off you go. How would you summarize this season?
Started from the top and now we are at the bottom. Uh, one of the top contenders for everybody post the auction, and been a proper anti GT of last year, where everybody thought that GT will not do and they went on to win. They said everybody thought SRS should do well, and they ended up at the bottom. They've had lots and lots of issues. Some of the issues either Aiden Makram is not aware of. So hopefully he can consult the management first and they can decide what's the issue. So having said that, I think the kind of squad that they had, all of us bought into it, that great depth, everything is there. They have potential good replacements. But it was a case of first-hand experience of a captain and a coach not always being in sync of what they want to be. You can see on the screen points 8, position 10. I mean, they have less points than the position. Of course, it just sums up the season for them. The batting average, the bowling ranking, batting ranking, nothing to boast of. Boundary count as well, fours, 36s, 9. I mean, you could count who has hit those sixes for them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been
So
that
actually,
bad.
just to explain this boundary count, which we'll have for every team, this sort of tells us the difference between the number of fours that they hit versus the number of fours that were hit against them. So a boundary four count of minus 30 means that the opposition ended up hitting 30 more fours than what Sunrisers hit, and nine more sixes than what they hit. So they were net negative on both fours and sixes.
Yep. And those fours actually also tell you that they failed to bridge gaps, whatever you want to call it, however way you want to look at it. More numbers, 23 players they tried, joint most for any side this season. They tried 7 opening pairs, so they also had the random generator that few other teams are having to open. Uh, no batter in top 10, of course, in top 30 apart from Klassen. Nobody who could you could tell that this is the wicket taker of the side. Markante started very well, and then they just tapered off. Eventually, they ended up being a side who doesn't know who's their top three, who's their strike bowler, who's their power play bowler. They hyped up Adil Rashid, but did not play him at all because Markande was doing well, but then they hardly used Akil Hussain. It's been a season of it's like you can't pinpoint what went wrong because nothing went right for them. But I just felt it was a lack of identity that what they want to try in terms of how they approach things. It wasn't that they were a better side batting first or batting second. A lot of their failures came against left arm spin, which again was very obvious because they had a plethora of right handers. The one good left hander they had, Abhishek Sharma, they played him and then they dropped him. So it's like everything that can go wrong has gone wrong, and I hope I can talk about Brook because otherwise,
Yeah,
then he'll
yeah.
tell me why am I talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, so before we move on to the silver linings, I'll just say out loud a few numbers. So, like you said, that they tried 23 players, and out of which only Bhuvi was the one who played all the games.
Yeah,
And Makram and Tripathi were the ones who played 13 each. Apart from that, no one played even 13 games. So, there was a lot of sort of the game of dancing chairs that was played. Their main key batters, Makram, Tripathi, Brook, and Mayank, all averaged in the early 20s, and everyone had a strike rate in the 120s. So, a lot of issues there. Any silver lining that Nikhil you saw in their overall season, apart from the obvious one, which is Henrik Klassen?
yeah, I think that was obviously the best silver lining for them. I actually expect a lot of Aiden Makram as well, but having come off a very good SA20, so again, it is a lot of season of defying your own expectations. So in that sense, Mayank Pandey did very well to start the tournament well. But then again, you felt that he lacked support and the usage of people at times. I mean, you thought Umran could be used better. You felt, okay, Marco Jansen did have some glimpses that, okay, with a new ball, he could give you 2, 3 wickets very early, regularly. But that always did not uh, transform into consistent wicketing and the lack of runs from him as well. So I think Klassen was definitely the biggest positive for them. Some runs here and there for Mayank. A Brooks century actually just cost them a lot more than benefited them, I felt. Had he not hit the century, it would have been easier for them to drop him. But again, like it is with big signings, you try and fit the player, which is where a credit to Mumbai that they shelved the idea of let's not overuse Green. I think they were too fixated with wanting to use Brook. But as I said, I think it's a first season problem for Lara and Markham. Potential releases, I think they may release a lot or they may not release anyone because it has to depend on what they want to do. I think once they sort out a plan that this is how we want to play, this is how the team will function, then you can look at potential releases because everybody has been a bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, I mean, before we sort of talk about the potential releases, just to throw back that they still have 6.5 crore left in their purse, and but they don't have any slot left. So to make some slots available, they'll have to release a few players. Do you guys think Mayank at 8.25 crore is worth it, and Kartik Tyagi at 4 crores? I know he didn't play a lot, but I mean, what are your thoughts on both of those players? Because apart from that, I don't really feel that there is an ardent need for them to sort of chop and change. Because I mean, let's all agree, right? There isn't an analyst in the world who would have said that SRH did not have the
Yeah.
best option.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Mayank is somebody that they, I hope they back at least for another season and give him a consistent role. I mean, you can't push him at 6 and then get him out of the side and then try things. I think they need to just fixate on one thing that, okay, this is Mayank's role. He gets 14 games no matter what. Keep Mayank and Abhishek at the top and then see how you want to shape your overseas batters because that has been the problem for them. So I hopefully Mayank gets another game because if you send him out in the market and then look to get him back, I don't think it'll work out. Somebody will always take him at a price that you may not want to. And with Kartik Tyagi, I hope he's handled well. It's a shame that a fast bowling lineup like SRH did not always have the right bearings or the right plans at times. So and Kartik was unlucky, of course, in the last game. But I think there is scope, there is potential. Hopefully, they can hang on to a specific plan, and then let's see where it takes you.
So just to sum up this SRH chatter before we move to Anirudh and Gurkirat for their thoughts, just one more stat that I want to tell our viewers that SRH as a spin bowling unit took the joint lowest wickets, and there was absolutely nothing to talk about in the spin bowling department outside of Mayank Markande. So yeah, that sort of sums up their season. Anirudh, Gurkirat, do you guys have anything to add to what was discussed?
Yeah, so I'm just looking forward to this in the next season, right? I'm slightly worried about Abhishek Sharma because it feels to me like he's stagnating as a player. Like he's neither here nor there. And I think considering they've heavily invested in him, I still have my doubts over Abhishek Sharma whether he is the opener they are looking for or the opener they need because I think the jury is still out on Abhishek Sharma despite the kind of season he had last year. He had a few good knocks, but again, it feels to me like Abhishek Sharma's 2022 was like more like Prabh Simran's 2023, and it's the follow-up season that was always going to be important for Abhishek Sharma, and unfortunately, he was not able to follow his 2022 up with anything substantial this year. So that is one area. If I'm SRH, I'll be slightly concerned about because again, you have invested in him heavily, and he solves a lot of problems. But if he does not end up working out, then that creates a lot of problems for you. And yes, we all were, I think, surprised at the mega auction itself when they did not go for Chehel, for example, right? They did not go. They could have easily gone for a Chehel or some other Indian leg spinner, but they chose not to. And Maya Markande sort of half clicked for them. So it is again at the top of their priority list should be getting a proper leg spinner if there is one in the auction, and ideally Indian. This is easier said than done, because Indian leg spinners who are like proper quality come at a premium. So it won't be easy to like A, identify them, B, pick them. So hopefully for them they scout someone like what KKR did with Suyesh Sharma. Hopefully SRS gets someone like him, so that they could solve a bit of their issues next year. And are we talking about potential releases now, or will Nikhil
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah. I
it?
mean, now we can finish off SRH by discussing
Yeah,
your thoughts. Yeah.
and finally, when it comes to potential releases, I feel they need to let go Janssen. I really don't think he is the greatest of fits for T20 cricket at this stage in his career. At least I don't think they will kind of regret it. So, and they have to take a call on Karthik Tyagi, obviously, because it's doing no favors for either party. It's like Tyagi is not benefiting from being spending like 1.5 months on the bench for SRH, and SRH are not benefiting from playing Karthik Tyagi like 2 or 3 matches a season, because his lines seem to be very erratic. His discipline seems to be like completely gone, and he seems to be down in confidence. So again, he is a talent, but if it's not working out, then unfortunately you have to let a player go. So that is one player I'm thinking they might let go. And contrary to popular belief, I don't think they will touch any of their foreign batters right now. I think they will keep Brook, even though it's 13 crore they spent on him, because I see him as a project player. Maybe one more season and maybe they might not retain him, but surely not. They're not releasing him after one bad season. Especially he showed that he can do something with that century he scored at Eden. So like you said, Somesh pointed out a very important factor about the number of slots remaining. So I completely expect them to let go all of their fringe Indian players like Sanveer Singh. Maybe Nitish Reddy could get a gig, but because he showed good promise, so I expect them to let go of Sanveer Singh. Even Vivrant Sharma, I think they won't retain him. I don't think. In case they want to free up space, that is right. You want to always keep slots open. So if you have to shave off some of the slots and have 5 6 slots going into the auction, and then I see some easy targets to be released like Sanveer Singh and Vivrant Sharma, probably Anmol Preet Singh as well. Then potentially Karthik Tyagi and maybe Janssen, so that's like 5, and maybe Akil Hussain they might release because they have not used him at all. So one of Adil Rashid or Akil Hussain is gone in my opinion, so that will free up like 6 7 slots, and they could you know think forward after that. So
And what about Umran Malik?
keep him. I mean, again, one not sure what's happening behind the scenes. That is always a
Akram.
fight with SRH. But if it comes between Karthik Tyagi and Umran Malik has played for India as recently as Jan 2023, if I'm not wrong, and he could be a player who could be nurtured by the management itself, if not the SRH management, the Indian management. So he could always end up clicking. But Karthik Tyagi, I don't think is anywhere near the picture. So I think he's the safer of the two players to release, in my opinion. So yeah, Gurkiran, what do you think?
Fair enough. No, I tend to agree with most of the things that the two of you have said. I was a little split on Mayank being retained or not, but I see the logic that Nikhil's come up with, because it won't be easy to buy him back from the auction. So yeah, and Hyderabad is the kind of surface where you think someone like Mayank can do well. It's not the most difficult batting pitch in the country. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, most of the things. I, s- I I genuinely think that they might be the, like we were discussing yesterday, that they might be the worst side, worst side in the IPL history, who had so many resources but finished at the bottom. So hopefully, I think they should keep everything the same, but just make one or two people accountable and let only those one or two people run the team. Two would be best, because sometimes you need a second opinion, and because it is very easy for a single person who's thinking in one way to get caught up in his own ideas and not think outside those realm of possibilities. So probably have two people, maybe the captain and the coach, think about it and then let them run it, but just give them that that authority or accountability, or else you'll see what Markram, the kind of body language that Markram was displaying. He just, it didn't feel like that he wanted to captain to me in the last few games. It was like they were just going through the motion. So hopefully nothing of that. And yeah, hopefully next year it's a revival of the franchise, because they've been one of the most consistent franchises in between, and they've done well. But right now it's just not helping them, their fans, or even the league, because you don't want one or two teams to be out from the picture just from the very beginning. You want the contest to be there. So that's what I'll hope for.
Yeah. And one more thing I'll just add. I think the priority for them, the management should be they need to sit down and figure out a way to get the best out of their young Indian players, the Indian core they have, because they have such a core with such a wonderful potential that most teams would kill for. They have Abhishek Sharma, they have Rahul Tripathi, they have Abdul Samad, they have Karthik Jahir, they have Umran Malik, they have Natarajan, Bhuvneshwar Kumar. That's like seven starters I've named. Like most teams like RCB, teams like you know more. I mean KKR and all these teams would kill to have such a core. Ultimately, but it does not mean anything if you cannot get the best out of their players. And like I talked about Abhishek Sharma stagnating, but look at Abdul Samad. He's played 3 seasons now, and he's nowhere close to realizing his potential. I mean, he's played like you can count. It's like 3, 4 good knocks in 3 years. That's it. And we know that when he's especially performing well for Jammu Kashmir in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, which is the same case for like someone like Abhishek Sharma, who's performing exceptionally well for Punjab and SMAT. So you have to figure out if he can do it at that level. What is holding him back from at least being a 6.5/7 out of 10 player for our franchise? What is going wrong? So that is something they need to prioritize. I don't know if they have to hire an extra Indian support staff who can help them with that, or they need to take lessons from a CSK or like even Mumbai or even Punjab this season to brainstorm how you can get the best out of your Indian players. But unless and until they do that, I don't think they're gonna make big strides. Maybe yeah, they could improve, but the moment the only way they progress really forward from here is not by buying more players or adding more firepower on the foreign side, but getting the most out of their Indian players.
Yep, absolutely. That's question of the Sunrisers. From that, we'll move on to Delhi now, and of course, when we have Gurkirat in the house, so we don't really need anyone else to talk about DC. Yeah, just to sort of segue the conversation, Delhi, like Sunrisers, tried 23 players, and only Warner, Aksar, and Kuldeep were the players who played all games. I mean, spinners were economical. They did not take a lot of wickets, but batting was the real issue. They have the lowest strike rate against both pace and spin. They have the lowest average against pace and the second lowest average against spin. So yeah, with those numbers or broad numbers out of the way, over to you, Gurpreet, to talk about the nitty gritties of the horrible season that they had.
Yeah, so like you mentioned about the worst batting numbers, I mean they have an average of less than 20 per wicket. That's terrible. And another thing that shocked me when I was looking at a few numbers is that their highest wicket taker this season is Mitchell Marsh. That sums up so much about their bowling issues, right? Mitchell Marsh, who's just bowled 20 overs in the season, he's only played 8 games, should not be your highest wicket taker. So yeah, it's been a terrible season, and they've been, even in the last 5 overs, they've had an average of 13 and a strike rate of 128.93. Essentially, that means that they were not even scoring 40 runs in the last 5 overs. That is how bad they were with the bat. Like they were terrible. And yes, spinners had the best economy, but both Akshar and Kuldeep had a strike rate of more than 24, which means that they were not your guaranteed wicket takers
Yeah.
in a game. So they were
Hmm.
they were average less than 1 wicket per game. And when you are playing at when you like Firosha Kotla, that is problematic. Player availability also hurt them a little bit, because Marsh wasn't there for 2 games. Then he did not play the last 2 games, and he got ill in one of the games. So there's that. But overall, if you look at it, the way their auction went, they were set up to fail. So them ending ninth doesn't surprise me. These numbers are there. I have a few other numbers which I have taken a note of. Apart from they were also the second worst bowling attack at the death, conceded. You know, the at the second highest economy. No one apart from David Warner scored more than 300 runs. So so many things just did not click for them. And for me, the biggest disappointment was Mitchell Marsh's batting, because I thought that he would be able to score some runs, but he also, I mean, in his first 4 games, he had scored a total of 9 runs, and eventually he finished
Mm.
with an average of 14. You look at Prithvi Shaw's average 13.25. Phil Salt did play a couple of impactful knocks. So, yeah, I mean, the only silver lining that we can talk about is that maybe this will force the owners to change the management, which is desperately required. That could be the silver lining. And then Mitchell Marsh's bowling, because Mitchell Marsh bowling that many overs is something that I don't think anyone would have foreseen given his injury issues. But given how he bowled and with control, more or less, it would also, make the Australian management quite happy, because he's going to be a starter in the World Cup later this year. So if he can come and pitch in with those 3-4 overs on dry pitches, it would really help the Australian team. But yeah, nothing really to write home about. Maybe you can, I mean, Warner's batting, but Warner's was also a shadow of himself, you felt. And you could talk about Akshar's batting, but we had already seen that coming. Uh, but yeah, the other thing that is you'd you'd be happy looking at how Kuldeep was able to bowl defensively, because Kuldeep's been such a bowler that if he's not been able to take wickets, he's also conceded a lot of runs. And to Delhi's credit, they also had a few close wins this time, which you felt when teams are losing, like how Sunrisers were losing. Sunrisers hardly won a close game. Delhi, to their credit, was still
Mm.
able to win 3 close games: one versus Gujarat, one versus Sunrisers at Hyderabad, then one versus Punjab. So these things, tell you that at least there were few things happening right. They were still willing to put in that fight, which at times you felt was not the case with Sunrisers. So Mm, yeah, the silver lining are these things. And if we are talking of potential releases, I have a list of 7-8 players who I really don't see in the team next year, because I really feel that they can't really add a
Yeah.
lot of value. I mean, Praveen Dubey is one, Manish Pandey, Sarfaraz Khan, Priyam Garg. Like, if I'm talking about these three Indian batters, uh, not their fault either completely, because they were out batting out of position. So there are these four. Then I think one out of Mustafizur or Ngidi will be released. I'd actually be looking to keep someone like Ngidi instead of Mustafizur, because I think if you really need someone who could bowl slower balls into the pitch in Delhi, you could look at Sakaria's development and then take that call. And Riley Rousseau, again, I don't think you can carry a player like him, especially when you're looking to retain someone like Mitchell Marsh, and there's David Warner itself. So Riley Rousseau goes out for me. Abhishek Porel, Pant comes back hopefully next season, so Abhishek Porel goes out. Nagarkoti, you have 5 Indian bowlers before this, and Nagarkoti did not play a game. You did not know how to utilize Chetan Sakaria either, so Nagarkoti goes out. Uh, Deepal Patel, Lalit Yadav. I mean, Delhi really need to look at an off spinner who can guarantee you 4 overs. At this point of time, Lalit Yadav does not guarantee you 4 overs, and he doesn't really make much of an impact either with the bat for you to carry that player. And with the impact player rule coming in, you need to be at least good in one department, or else it's very difficult to now carry bits and pieces players, because the opposition will have batting options till number 8, that they can hurt you if you're bowling a part timer. So, 7-8 players easily, because Ripple Patel also is not being used properly. We don't even know, he has a reputation of being a spin hitter, but even in domestic cricket, he doesn't have great numbers. So there's that. I'm I'm still okay with keeping someone like an Aman Khan and Vicky Oswal, because I feel Vicky Oswal has great potential, and he's one player that you can develop. Similarly for Yash Dhul, I am not sure what Delhi are going to do with Prithvi Shaw, because right now Prithvi Shaw's IPL average is, I think, less than 24, and it's across a huge sample space. And last 3 seasons he's not been able to play 14 games for Delhi, whether it be form, fitness, or whatever. So if you do you want to, I mean, it's going to be a very tough call whether you want to retain him or not retain him, because you retained him ahead of the mega auction, because clearly 2021 season he had done well, 450 plus runs at an average of 32, strike rate of 159, but then nothing after that. And Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy also, he's scoring runs against weak sides. He's not putting in those consistent performances that you want from him. So the another idea that they could look at is probably open with Yash Dhur. So there's that. But it's going to be a tough, if they do retain Prithvi Shaw and Prithvi Shaw then doesn't do anything, then it's not only going to hurt the team, it's also going to hurt him, because if you have consistent seasons of underwhelming performance in the IPL, right? It makes it very difficult for you to also make it to the next level, because and that is across formats. You can talk about not mixing formats or mixing formats, but the truth is that selectors, everyone does look at IPL far more closely than what they would look at other domestic tournaments. So Delhi really need to look at this case, that what they want to do with Prithvi Shaw, and hope that in the next auction they are able to find a backup wicketkeeper who's good, and can bat, probably a good off spinner, and yeah, and good Indian middle order batters. Not someone who, they have to
Yeah,
end this
right.
obsession with finding batters who can bat in the top three only.
Yeah. So just to interrupt that Gurkirat monologue, I'm here. I'm listening to him, and I just feel that it's almost impossible to do anything with Delhi because there is even a single aspect that Gurkirat has said that doesn't need a change, and obviously neither there will be so many players nor other team will be foolish enough to allow Delhi to do it. So based on his assessment, they look royally screwed at the moment. I just want to touch upon a few minor pointers here. One is if you go back to the chart, the difference between the number of sixes that they hit versus the number of sixes hit against them is 47. That is uh, three times more than the second worst side, which just shows that how outdated Delhi are in terms of their batting. Because it is clearly the case of their batters not hitting sixes. Because if you recall, there were quite a few games where their batting lineup was unwatchable. I mean, if only there is a professional interest, I did not see any reason for having to put myself to the pain of watching their batting lineup go about their job. Second thing is about potential releases, and let's just talk about the main releases here, which are actually going to affect their budget because releasing someone who's costing 20 lakhs or 50 lakhs won't really, apart from making a slot available, won't really give them the bucks that they need to buy bigger players. So my question is around Chetan Sakaria Gurpreet. He's costing 4.2 crores and ended up playing only 2 games. So if I mean that's quite a lot of money to be paid to a player who they don't really see as a potential starter. Mustafizur definitely 2 crores and also an overseas spot because they don't have any slot left. Uh, so I want your thoughts about Sakaria, and also I mean you said that you presented scenarios on them releasing Shaw and not releasing Shaw. What is your take? Should they release him? Should they retain him? And stick to this because I have a few more questions to ask you specifically.
At present, I'm more inclined to release him unless he has a great SMAT, because uh, very difficult
You're
to,
talking about Shaw.
yeah, very difficult to have a player who's not even guaranteeing you 14 games due to fitness reasons. Forget form. And he's had a
Hmm.
like he's always under the news or something, that there are some discipline issues and everything else. For a team that is struggling with other issues, you don't want such issues which are off the field, because then they start affecting your on-field performance as well. So for me, at this point of time, I'm more than tempted to release Prithvi Shaw and try and make space
And
for
what
a
about Sakaria?
Sakaria. I'm fine. I mean, if it's that's not a big deal for me, because if you want, then you should, because even Mukesh Kumar has costed them 5.5 crores, and for me, both these
Hmm.
bowlers, you they are very expensive for the number of games that they are playing and the performance that they are giving. So one
Hmm.
could they could even, but I feel that they still keep Mukesh Kumar because you don't know how much is Ishant Sharma going to play, and he provides that variety. So yeah, you could release Chetan Sakaria. I don't mind, but I think they need to let go of Mustafizur and keep Ngidi, because Ngidi has pace, and I feel in recent times he's been better than Mustafizur.
Yeah, talking about Ishan Sharma actually took as many wickets as Nokia, but with a better economy. I don't know if it's a silver lining or not. But yeah, I mean, you spoke about Mitchell Marsh and he was the leading wicket taker, and actually, Mitchell Marsh single-handedly ensured that Delhi are not at the bottom of the table of both batting numbers and bowling numbers. But I mean, to be really honest, if Mitchell Marsh is your main bowler, that just goes to show, right, that there are some severe issues with the team. That's one. Second is about Aman Khan. So we've often seen teams identify a player, back him, and more often than not, at least for the better teams, those players end up delivering at least by the end of the season. But Aman Khan was given 11 games. He averages 13.8 and a strike rate of 108.9. So neither here nor there. So do you think that, I mean, Aman Khan is another story of a big ass failure for this management in terms of even player development, because you sort of did not put your money on the right horse, or if he was the right horse, he was not given enough a role where he could succeed in maybe.
So here's the thing. I really don't know if a younger batter who's been, or if a young batter who's batting so much out of position, if he should really be judged on how he's gone with Delhi this season. Because Aman Khan, if you look at it, he was batting coming into bat at number seven, number eight, and so many times when the game was done, and in that Gujarat game, he showed good application. So there is something right with him. I do feel that if you've traded him, and I don't think he costed Delhi much, so you can look to take a punt on him.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
just
see,
feel,
I'm not talking about releasing him. I just sort
yeah,
of feel that is Aman Khan the exemplifier of how clueless his management is? Because you have given 11
100%,
games to a player who
100%.
bats at 7-8 and doesn't ball. That means you are absolutely clueless and trying to put together an 11 somehow so that the season just gets by and you go back and just come back next season when your captain is available.
100%. That is the case for sure, that the management is clueless, because you've Aman Khan, has he's still got 11 games in this one season. You have players like Reepal Patel, and Reepal Patel, who's not got 11 games across 3 seasons. So that is something that you look at Rovman Powell also this season. I think he played only 3 games, and
Hmm.
one of them he was just set up for failure. Last season, because he has spoken about Pant backing him, he did deliver 3 or 4 good knocks. So this management is clueless. That is not a secret, which is why I said that the silver lining could be that after this kind of a season, that the management would change, and hopefully then it can turn around the fortunes. Because yeah, I don't know. I don't think if they can go lower than what they did this season. They managed the wins, but like you said, they were unwatchable. They were literally unwatchable. Barring
Yeah.
that one game where they defeated RCB at Kotla, there was not even one game which even I felt like watching. To be very honest,
So the first potential release that he wants is Ponting.
100%. That I wanted two
Yep.
years ago.
Again, yeah. Yeah, so with that, let's move to Punjab, and if we can have the graphic up, Punjab ended at number 8. Somehow it feels very bizarre because they were a team obsessed with finishing sixth, but in a season where I felt that there were more positives than negatives for them, they've ended 2 spots lower. This is largely due to their bowling. As we can see here, they're the lowest bowling average in the league, and they're the second worst on economy. So I think Anirudh, who is the ardent Punjab fan here, if you can walk us through your thoughts on this season.
Yeah, sure. So again, I think Somesh echoed my thoughts pretty much. Usually, when a team finishes eighth, you will be, more often than not pissed off. But I'm not pissed off. I think this is there are a lot of positives to take uh, for going forward for Punjab. And I'll start with the silver linings actually, contrary to, because I think there are quite a few silver linings. So first of all, they have a fantastic young core, not just batters but all round the team. And one thing which is very pleasing to see was how much the management invested in the young core, and that paid off. So you saw Dhawan saying right at the start of the season that I will give Prabhsimran 14 games at the top no matter what. I think he said this after he scored that 75 against Rajasthan in Guwahati. And they stuck to their word. Prabhsimran played every single match, and this despite him having a kind of a a lean patch in between after that one big knock. Uh, Again, take an example of Harpreet Brar. Yes, the usage of him was questionable, but he did play almost every single match. I think he played 13 out of the 14 matches. Uh, and to be honest, whenever he's been called upon, he's done a decent job. And of course, not just these two. You have Prabsimran Singh opening, Adarva Taide, who came in and did a fantastic job at number 3. Jitesh Sharma, even a couple of very good performances from Shah Rukh Khan. And you look at this top to bottom, there is plenty of positives to take forward going forward next season. So that is a big silver lining. And of course, there is one more silver lining, and I feel is Nathan Ellis. Who again, credit to Punjab's management, they backed him over Rabada. He played more matches than Rabada. They did not fall for the okay, Rabada is our 9 crore signing and we have to play him trap. They played Rabada in only the right conditions, or the conditions which they thought he would like, and more often than not they went forward with Nathan Ellis. And again, the numbers won't tell you, the raw numbers won't tell you that Ellis had a fantastic season. And to be honest, he did not have a fantastic season, but he was clearly a cut above the rest in terms of the bowling. And I am sure that if Nathan Ellis was in a team like RCB or LSG for that matter, he would have really benefited those sides. I'm saying that his performance was great for someone who does a semi-support role / bowls in the tough overs. But unfortunately, why people are not talking about Nathan Ellis's season and why Punjab are 8th on the table is directly because of their bowling. And again, we saw in the chart that Punjab have this worst average and second worst economy, but there are like more in-depth numbers that I would just want to take you guys through. So they took the fewest wickets among. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a number just I wanted to. I was adding already. They took 72 wickets in 14 games. That is around 5 wickets a game. So on most games, they were not even testing the batting depth of the opposition. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah, sure. So they took the fewest wickets among all sides, and in the power play, and they were bad across phases, not just in one phase. So in the power play, they averaged over 50 with the ball. Only one side averaged more, which was Lucknow. And again, they were not just that; they were also the third most expensive side in the power play. And in the middle overs, they were again third most expensive side, and they took the third fewest wickets. And at the economy, at the death, their economy was 10.7, which I think is about a fifth or sixth, joint fifth or sixth, I think, out of the 10 teams. But considering Punjab on paper was stacked, and we all thought that they had the best death bowling unit, they had Arshdeep, they had Ellis, they had Sam Curran. So for that side to be having an economy of 10.7 at the death, after not taking any wickets in the power play, after failing in the middle overs, it's an all-round disaster from top to bottom. And here's another interesting stat: among bowlers who bowled 35 or more overs this season, Sam Curran was the most expensive bowler. His economy was 10.2, and guess who was the second most expensive? Arshdeep Singh, 9.7. So we basically have a bowling attack in which you have the most expensive bowler and the second most expensive bowler both playing as frontline bowlers. So that is enough, right? And then complemented. Yeah, just one second, and then add it up with a spin attack which does not take wickets. Rahul Chahar and Harpreet Brar both took fewer than 10 wickets this season, and Rahul Chahar played almost. I mean, he did play every match, and I think he has the worst average among all leg spinners in the entire tournament, if not spinners. And you combine this with the disaster that was Sam Curran and Arshdeep Singh, it is bound to give you numbers that we saw in the chart. They are simply the worst bowling unit in the league, and that is such a disappointment because at one point, I think after 2 or 3 matches, and even before the start of the season, we were actually contemplating which was their stronger of the two suits, whether it was their bowling, whether it was their batting. Because you thought that if they added both Rabada and Ellis, well, their bowling looked strong with Arshdeep, Rahul Chahar, Harpreet Brar, Livingston, etc. But that did not happen. And when it comes to their batting, they outperformed. To be honest, they exceeded expectations, especially considering they lost Dhawan for like 3-4 matches. and Dhawan's form fell off a cliff once he returned from his injury. I think he scored an 86 not out and a 99 not out consecutively, and then he got injured, and after that he scored just 150 in his last 9 innings. And even that 50 was a scratchy 56 of like 45 balls or something against KKR. And Dhawan, to be honest, did not contribute anything with the bat in the last second half of the season, which is where I had to give a lot of credit to guys like Prabhsimran Singh, Jitesh Sharma, Adarva Taide, who all stood up. And even Sam Curran had a couple of good knocks, especially the one against Mumbai stands out at Wankhede. I think he kind of single-handedly turned the momentum around for them. But we saw last season how the middle overs were their undoing. Like they lost the plot in the middle overs. They used to start exceptionally well in the power play, and they used to completely get folded over in the. They used to fold in the middle overs, and as a result, it affected their death overs because they did not have any wickets in hand last season. So what happened this season? So this season they had the second lowest scoring rate in the middle overs, which was 8 runs per over, and that was against that was mainly due to how they struggled to put away spin again. They had a third lowest strike rate against spin, which was just 8 runs per over, and the culprit was actually Liam Livingston, whose strike rate against spin was 95.38, and he faced more than 60 balls against spin this season. And honestly, you don't expect that from a player like Livingston, even though, yes, he's an overseas player, but he paid more than 12 crore for him. And when he's not performing even at run a ball against spin, that is bound to affect you. However, unlike last season, they did not lose a lot of wickets against spin. So they did not collapse. Their average is around, in the middle overs, if you look at their average against spin, is around 26, 27, which is on par with like most teams except a couple of teams which have over 35, 40. So they have been par when it comes to not losing wickets, but in terms of scoring rate, they've been extremely down. But I think what's happened is that because they have not lost wickets this time, they have been actually able to accelerate at the death, something that they were not able to do last season. So this season, their scoring rate at the death has been 11.9, which is the best among all teams. So again, you look at guys like Jitesh, Livingston, and rarely did Punjab, collapse spectacularly like they did last season. So they kept wickets in hand, and of course you have the impact player rule giving you the added batting depth as well. So they put that to use very well. Before I get to potential releases, I think Gurkirat wanted to make a point. So I'll just
No, I wanted to ask you a question about what were the strike rates of Sam Curran and Arshdeep. I just wanted to ask you that.
I'm not sure about the. I mean, I'm not looking at the exact. Yeah.
So Sam Curran's strike rate was 28.7. So
Yeah.
essentially not even a wicket a game, and he was going at an economy of 10.2. With Arshdeep, I think strike rate was not an issue. It was mostly his economy.
And yes, Sam Curran did not take a single wicket in the power play in the entire season. So yes, questionable usage of Sam Curran in the power play was questionable. Whether he should have taken the new ball in certain instances, whether he should have bowled the fifth over, sixth over. But at the end of the day, 18.5 crores when you've paid for a player, returns like this with the ball are like unacceptable, and that probably contributed the most to Punjab's downfall this season. And there's one more important point I have to mention, which I think is not even a subplot, but it should be like one of the main plots for Punjab from this season, which was Shikhar Dhawan's captaincy and certain tactics extremely questionable. Again, that match against Kolkata Knight Riders at Eden, where Harpreet Brat took the wicket of Jason Roy. He had 1 for 4 after 1 over, and as in 4 runs conceded, 1 wicket taken, and then the ball was gripping and turning a lot on that surface. But Dhawan did not give him an over again because 2 left-handers were batting, and instead he decided to go with Liam Livingston, and probably that was one of the few turning points for Punjab in that season. And there's one more thing that Punjab did not do well was use Sikandar Raza really well, because again, they had some kind of a love-hate relationship with Raza. They played him in a few matches. He won them some matches, and then they dropped him. They did not give him a run. They picked him, they dropped him, they picked him, they dropped him, and they did not know what to do with him. So unfortunate for Raza, even though he, from a personal point of view, he did all he could to contribute. So yeah, so looking forward to next season. I think they will definitely be stronger once Johnny Bairstow comes back he'll be fully fit, so he'll be back to the side. Now the question is what they do with Basto, what they do with Prabhsimran and Dhawan. There is a traffic there. Do they play Basto in the middle order? Do they stick with Basto? Sorry, do they stick with Dhawan and Prabhsimran, or do they open with Basto and Dhawan and push Prabhsimran to three, or they open with Prabhsimran and Basto and let go Dhawan, and there are like this is one issue they need to solve. So that is there, and but I am, in my opinion, they need to release Rabada. That will save them 9.25 crore. There is no point in keeping Rabada. He's been substandard in the IPL for like 2-3 years now, and even this season he was second to Nathan Ellis and Sam Curran both. They were clear that they would much rather play Sam Curran for 14 matches, even though he was going at over 10 economy than Rabada, who also by the way went at over 10. And again, he's if they've paid 9.25 crore for him, Rabada probably, when you consider his actual performance, he's probably been worth around like 2.53 crores, not more than that. So they need to let go Rabada for sure. And they already have 12.20 crore remaining, by the way, in their purse. So releasing
Yeah.
Rabada would add another 10 crore to it. That's like 22 crore. And one more potential release, I would be, again, it's like I would be really tempted to release this player as Shah Rukh Khan as well, because I know they invested a lot in him, but it's not like he's clinched his opportunity every time. I know he plays a very tough role, but it's been like 3 years now, and he's played fewer than 5 impactful knocks, in my opinion, across 3 seasons. And even this season, he played a great knock against Lucknow. But apart from that, I mean, he's not done. He's not justified his price tag at all. So, okay, if he was a 2, 3, 4 crore signing, you could have kept him. But when he's a 9 crore signing, you surely expect more from a 9 crore signing, and that would push their budget to over 30 crores for the auction. So I think I'd be really tempted to release Shah Rukh Khan as well. Nothing else, I guess.
I mean, I just have a question here. So, I mean, I think releasing players is the easier job, right? I mean, what is the type of player that you would want them to hire? What is the role that you feel that would be really helpful, because they already have twice more the amount of money than any other team. So I don't think money
Yeah.
is an issue here. I mean,
Yeah.
because though I agree with Rabada, I absolutely do not agree with the release of Shah Rukh Khan, to be honest, because as I see it in the domestic pool, the player like Shah Rukh Khan is a rarity. Because even today, I don't think India is producing enough six hitters for teams who already have them to release such a player. And yeah, I mean, coming back to, I mean, the question that I asked earlier, is there any specific role that you foresee that in a player who would be hired will fill a
Yeah.
very big void or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should definitely go after an X factor spinner. I think that is one thing that they're lacking. I don't know if that player will be available in the auction. That is a big if. Whether it's an overseas spinner like someone like a mystery spinner from Afghanistan, or by chance somebody they end up scouting and who they think has the edge or something like that. They need an X factor spinner because it's been like almost like 2 years now where their spin bowling unit has underperformed, and this season you just can't not take wickets in the middle overs. At least if Rahul Chahar and Harpreet Brar had taken wickets in the middle overs, that would have mitigated the the effect of how poor their pacers were, but they were not even able to do that. So I would definitely keep Harpreet and Rahul Chahar both in the squad, but I would be looking to add uh, a spinner who could potentially add some cutting edge to the bowling unit. And yes, I would also go after one more overseas pacer who's quick and who could be a potential Rabada replacement. I don't know, it could be like Gerald Coetzee or someone they scout, or maybe a Spencer Johnson who plays in the BBL, who has like pace and who can bowl across faces. But yeah, I would be looking at one more all face overseas bowler, and then I would be looking at an X factor spinner. I think these are the two main needs for Punjab ahead of the next season.
I also think Punjab have 7 overseas players, so they should look to fill that quota of overseas players. That is one.
Yeah.
Two, they slightly improved versus spin as opposed to last season, because last season they had an average of 18, strike rate of 108. But I still think they need a They need a batter at number 4, 5 who can be really elite versus spin. Like genuinely, who can make sure that even if the likes of Livingston, like what happened in that game versus Mumbai, where both Livingston and Matthew Short were stuck against spin.
Yeah,
I also think Matthew Short should be released because again
sure.
there is no space. If anyway, if Best
Yeah.
was coming back, there's no
Matthew Short
space.
is, yeah.
Replacement player, I guess. Yeah.
So he should be
Yeah.
released.
But
Yeah,
hmm.
they should look to get one batter who's good versus spin, like and can bat at 4, 5, or
This is
potentially.
this is where I'm curious to get you guys' point of view, whether you would put
Rajat,
Basto at number 4, and probably then that will leave no space for Livingston. I mean, so again, either we can put Livingston as well, and then it will mean that you can't add an extra, overseas pacer,
Yeah.
which means your 4 overseas
So
will
I
be,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I feel if Best was available, I would put push Prabhasundar in the middle order, because based on what I saw of him, he's a very good pair spin actually, and whatever struggles were there were against quality pace, especially when there was movement.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean,
Hmm.
worth experimenting. But yeah, this is again, this will be down to how they can solve this problem, because the pieces are there. It's about how they put it together now. And again, hopefully next season they can put it together, and because this is actually a team with potential. And while watching Punjab, you never got the feeling that you got while watching Sunrisers or a Delhi Capitals, that this is a team that is
Yeah,
like, that
absolutely
is
not.
like
Yeah,
hopeless.
yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
that way,
I mean, dare I say there are a few teams who have qualified who were less watchable than Punjab, to be
yeah.
really honest.
That is true. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think just if they can sit down and figure out a way to improve their on in-game tactics, that will solve a lot of problems. And yes, like Gurkirat mentioned, they need one quality player of spin, and then of course they need one more great wicket-taking threat on the spin bowling front, and then probably an all-face pacer. If they can add all these three, which I think they could because they have the budget to do so, then yeah, then we could probably hopefully see them challenge for top 4 next season.
All right. Yeah. So with that, we'll move to KKR. The easier bit now is we don't have any teams who the panel here ardently supports. So we might even move to a shorter reviews. So let's
Yeah.
go to KKR. And if we can have the chart up, I personally feel KKR overperformed this season based on what was expected out of them. Though if we just go into a couple of nitty gritties, their paces were the most expensive in the league, and with the fewest wickets and the worst bowling average. So their paces actually gave them the worst of both worlds. Their batting, opposed to what was thought initially, was worst against spin on batting average, and overall, as we can see in the chart, they're the second worst batting side on average. So with that, I think Anirudh, you are supposed to walk us through for
Yeah.
KKR. So let's dive right into it.
Yeah, and I think I will make Somesh happy. I'm not going to, drag this too much. So yeah, when it comes to KKR, I really feel that there is no point in going through numbers or analyzing numbers with this KKR side, because again, they lost Shreyas Iyer, and like Somesh said, they overperformed and they exceeded our expectations. And the fact that they managed to finish on points with like Rajasthan Royals, right, and the same points as Rajasthan Royals. Sorry, they collected 2 fewer points, if I'm not wrong. Sorry, yeah. The fact that they almost managed to finish the same number of points as Rajasthan, who people were thinking them as title contenders. So that tells you that KKR have clearly exceeded expectations. So yes, coming to the issues, first the biggest issue was their top order. They had, I think, 8 different opening pairs, the most among all sides, and they have to sort that out next season. They have to. They have to. That is just unacceptable. And they need better Indian fringe batters. Mandeep Singh and Narayan Jagadisan do not cut it at this level. And I know that a lot of people were excited about Jagdishan after what he did in the Vijay Hazare Trophy, but even his Syed Mushtaq Ali numbers have never been impressive when it comes to his strike rates. And again, that's what we saw this season as well. He struggled a lot at this level, and he could not simply make a move at all in most matches. And that Bangalore match at the Chinnaswamy was especially painful when Jason Roy was going at like 220 to 30 strike rate, and Jagdishan was batting like 25 balls at a strike rate of 80 or something. So they need better fringe Indian players. They need to figure out how to fix their top order, because they have an excellent middle order. They have good potential now. The emergence of Rinku Singh, the matured version of Nitish Rana, which we saw this season, the semi-return of form to Venki Iyer, I should say. All these, because the three names I mentioned, Venki Iyer, Nitish Rana, Rinku Singh, all these players scored 400 plus runs at a strike rate of more than 140, which is excellent, right? Nobody thought that Kolkata would cope in the absence of Iyer, Shreyas Iyer, especially their middle order. But these three guys have stepped up big time. And coming back to the point I mentioned earlier about Abhishek Sharma, right? He showed glimpses last season, but he was not able to kick on from that. This is exactly what Rinku Singh has done this season. He showed glimpses of his brilliance last season, but he took his game to a whole new level this season. And now I think I have no doubt that he's going to be an integral part of KKR's core for the next few years. So yeah, the issues are clear. They have a horrible top order. They need to fix it somehow. They need better Indian players up top. They have a good middle order. And now comes a few issues on the bowling front. Somesh pointed out.
Anirudh, before we go to bowling, just to finish up this chat about the batting, you said that they need better Indian players. But if you think about it, we are marking Venkatesh Iyer as a success because he ended up scoring 400 runs at a strike rate of 140. So if when Shreyas Iyer is back, Venkatesh Iyer moves to the opening spot. I'm hoping because of the kind of season Roy had, he would be a certainty. And Shreyas Iyer at 3 and Rana Rinku to follow. So don't you think that their batting is solid there and there?
Yeah,
at least the first level.
True. Yes. That's what I'm saying. They need better fringe Indian players. As in, like, you can't have Mandeep Singh and Narayan Jagdishan as one of your backups. You need more players who are modern T20 batters. Look at what even Punjab have Adarwa Taide, right? Like, he's an anchor by nature, an anchorish player at least, but you can clearly see that he has potential and he has the strokes. So at least they need to upgrade on that front so that in case they lose someone to injury, they are not left with a huge drop off. I believe that was one of their biggest issues last season as well. They played like Baba Indrajit, Sheldon Jackson and all, and they are not, cut out for this level of modern day T20 cricket. Yeah, Gurkirat, you can.
Yeah, they need a good Indian wicketkeeper because what Somesh mentioned. If that happens, then there is no space for Gurbaz. And anyway, making a squad without an Indian wicketkeeping option who can play in the first 11 is a very difficult balance to maintain. You will end up on sacrificing something or the other in some way or the other, and it does come back to bite you. So they desperately need to find a good Indian wicketkeeper and see how it works out. I have one more thing to say. I think if Delhi end up releasing someone like Rovman Powell, they should close their eyes and go for him, because he at that venue in Eden Gardens, he could actually end up replacing Andre Russell in the future if he performs up to his potential. He has great game against pace, very good game against pace, can play the short ball very well, which is an anomaly these days with a lot of West Indian batters. Needs to work on his game against spin, which I think probably if he ends up playing a lot of Surya Sharma, Chakravarti, Narayan, probably he'll also become better. He'll like if he's playing them day in day out in the nets, he should become better. I hope.
So the irony is Russell's average against spin this season is 13 and strike rate is 116. So that was one of my questions. That is it become really obvious now that and sort of has hindered Russell's development as well, and he is of course facing all these bowlers in the net.
Surprisingly, if you look at it, even last season, they had an average of around 21. KKR as a whole batting unit had an average of around 21 against spin. This season also it's been on the slightly lower side. Now, if you tell me that, I'll have difficulty believing it because I know Nitish Rana is good versus spin. I know
Yeah,
last year Shreyas was there, he was good against versus spin. So my theory is that probably they sometimes look to attack spin a lot more, which means that they end up risking their wickets a lot more and start losing wickets. So that is what I feel. But yeah, those numbers against spin across these two seasons for KKR batters do not really make a lot of sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
To me, actually, they are a batting unit who give a rat's ass about wicket preservation. They don't care about wicket preservation. They are the type of intent batting lineup that you would actually want to see in this format, and they do have the talent to pull it off. So what they don't have is the batting depth. So if I am an analyst for KKR, what I'm actually looking for is to identify pacers who can bat, because you are not replacing those spinners. Yeah, those spinners are a luxury for any team. You won't drop a Varun Chakravarti or a Suyash Sharma because he can't bat. You would keep him. But what you can do is actually identify pacers who can bat, because that's how I feel KKR would be constructed. Because there's no point changing their batting approach. It's very watchable. It's very good. So yeah, I mean, this is again my personal take, but I'll allow Anirudh to take over the bowling conversation that he started 10 minutes ago.
Coming to pacers who can bat, they did buy a pacer who can bat for 10 crore at the auction last year. Not the auction, but they traded him outside the auction. And that pacer, we still are trying to figure out what his role was. He bowled only 21 overs in 9 innings. That's like barely like 2 overs per innings on average. And he played one good knock against Royal Challengers Bangalore that won them the game. And then he did play one match against Gujarat at number 3, and after that it was like they just woke up and just flipped a coin and like, okay, today you're not bowling, okay, today you're batting at number 3, today you're not. So Shardul Singh easily the biggest disappointment for KKR. And again, one 10 crore signing from one 10 crore signing to another, Lockie Ferguson, who again they traded off outside the auction shockingly for again a 10 crore, which is probably still one of the most baffling purchases in IPL history. It's up there. And again, he played like 3-4 matches and he conceded at around 12 or 13, if I'm not wrong. His economy was around 12 or 13. And yes, he never saw, he got back into the start. He never got back into the starting 11 again. And basically, Shardul, Lockie Ferguson, Tim Southee, and Umesh Yadav set the tone for the pace bowling the first half of the season. They could never, recover from that. However, I think there is a silver lining on the pace bowling front as well, which is I feel is Harshit Rana. I think he did start off slightly expensive in that one match, but you saw the potential in that game he played against Gujarat as well. I think he almost was troubling Shubman Gill as well in that match. And from there, he's gone from strength to strength, and he's one bowler who seems like he can bowl 140 effortlessly and also make the ball skid in helpful conditions. So Harshit Rana is someone they need to get hold of. They need to ensure that he keeps getting better and better, because it's very difficult for them to find a better Indian bowler in the auction next year, even if they go with a lot of money available. So, but yes, undoubtedly their pace bowling unit needs a complete overhaul. There is no doubt about that. If I'm the management, now I'll just come back to the potential releases. And I think Gurkirat mentioned a lot of names for Delhi, and I think KKR might rival Delhi for the same. I think they need to definitely get rid of Lockie Ferguson, Tim Southee, Shardul Thakur, David Visa, Mandeep Singh, Umesh Yadav, Jagadish Litton Das, Kulwant Kejrolia. That's like 9 players I've mentioned. So I honestly don't think any of these players add any value. The only questionable choice is Shardul, but at 10 crores, not worth it in my opinion. He's neither a batter nor a bowler, and with the impact player rule, a player like Shardul becomes so less valuable, because he won't guarantee you 30 runs, he won't guarantee you 4 overs, he won't guarantee you a good economy rate, he won't guarantee you wickets. So again, uh, they need to release these expensive signings at least, and yes, they need to go all out for the best pacer available in the auction. Like there is no question that whoever is the best seamer available in the market, they need to splash the cash and get hold of that player. And yes, hopefully some two or three smart buys. They could have easily bought a Sandeep Sharma for example, at the auction, and they would have benefited from it, but they did not. So some smart buys like this, and yeah, one more good overseas opener is also, I think, they could potentially go for one more quality overseas opener. Hopefully, I don't know if Alex Hales will be available or not, but I see a person like Alex Hales adding a lot of value to KKR, because Somesh talked about their IDGAF approach when it comes to wicket preservation. I think Hales is one batter who can actually bring you that attitude, but at the same time play mature enough to take the innings forward and anchor at a 140 plus strike rate. So I think they are missing that kind of a player at the top of the order. So I would definitely look at buying Alex Hales again if I am KKR. So yes, but yes, pace rehauling and overhauling the pace department should be number one priority. Yeah.
What you
One
said
player that
about.
you've forgotten is Shakib Al Hasan. I mean, in my opinion, he should also be released because I don't see a potential fit for Shakib in this unit. I would rather keep Shardul and at least Shakib, to be honest, because again, at least on paper, Shardul adds value with both bat and ball, which and finding someone like him in the Indian circuit would be difficult.
So one thing is that, like Anirudh mentioned about the potential releases, and the most names have come from Delhi and KKR, and it's not a surprise because pre tournament and post auction, everyone was talking about how these two squads are the most poorly constructed squads. A lot of these players might be good and they might serve other franchises well, but there's no way that they'd be able to add a lot of value in these two setups. And I think, you know the signing of Jason Roy as a replacement player could turn out to be how Delhi got lucky with signing Nokia as a replacement player, because now that they've got hold of Jason Roy, they must keep him. They should not even think of releasing him or doing anything. Just hope that he stays fit and he can play. And Anirudh mentioned about signing good Indian pacers. I hope that they go for someone like Ishan Porel. He's a local boy. He would know the conditions. He's tall and he would really enjoy bowling in these conditions. So, Harshit Rana, Vaibhav Arora, and Ishan Porel. Yes, all of them are right-handed bowlers, but they can form a good trio of Indian pacers who can play on that Eden's pitch. Kulwant Khijorlia, I think Anirudh forgot mentioning him, but
I
I
think I
don't.
had him in the releases list, so I think I won't keep him personally. I
Yeah,
don't think he
exactly.
adds too
I
much
was
player.
I was going to mention that. I don't know how he also played ahead of Weber Baroda, and he should also be released.
Mm. I think if Delhi release Abhishek Purel, he will be a good find for KKR. He can be used as an impact player just for wicket keeping. Because I mean, why not?
He could be a
When
better
needed for
wicketkeeper
specialized
than
skill,
if if
uh,
if Delhi, sorry, if KKR sign Abhishek Porel, he would automatically be the best Indian wicketkeeper they've had in like 2 years. So, so,
yep.
so
I think that was about KKR. Let's move to RCB now, and of course this is Gurkirat's second team for the evening. RCB. I mean, this team just loves to build pace. They have the best strike rate when it comes to facing pace bowling as a team, but when it comes to facing spin, they have the second lowest strike rate. So the difference there is stark, and so is the difference between their KGF and what was to follow after that. And hence, we see them not qualifying. And in fact, they finished below Rajasthan Royals based on the net run rate. So yeah, maybe Gurkirat, you can just delve deeper
So,
into what were the
so
issues for RCB and what were the silver linings.
in this graphic that we can see, the biggest number there is sixes being minus 19. Now, when you are going to play 7 games at Chinnaswamy, you can't afford to have that. Your sixes being minus 19. That is where, and it reflected in their results also. They won only 3 games out of 7, while most teams have not dominated at home this season. This has been a factor. If you look at their bowling average and batting average, those are good numbers. And I looked at their bowling numbers closely. They were very good in the power play. Where they lost the plot was in the middle overs. In the middle overs from over 7 to 15, they were the worst side, and their spinners were the most expensive throughout the tournament. They had a economy rate of 9.77, and the second worst is 8.63. It's down to
Yeah,
Hasaranga
yeah,
missing few games. It's also because he missed a few games and did not hit form, and then Karan Sharma conceding so many sixes, both like so many times, both their spinners just kept bowling it short, and to the extent that come the virtual knockout game, they went to a rookie like Himanshu Sharma over Karan Sharma, or even Shahbaz. They could have played Shahbaz yesterday, given how Gujarat had five batters. His usage also wasn't the greatest. So, yeah, probably they need to, outside of Hasaranga, they probably need to look at an Indian spinner who's reliable and who they can rely on, at least 3 overs, if not four, because the spin bowling attack, and Maxwell also did not bowl a lot in this tournament. Outside of Hasaranga, their spin bowling attack was okay. We'll try this. We'll see what happens, and then you know rotate stuff and see. And one thing I thought which also hurt them was Harshal's form. It was not a surprise to me because Harshal in Chinnaswamy, I still think that in a few games he did well. He did well versus Rajasthan when they played. He did decently yesterday also, but like we had discussed this in one of the watch longs early on, uh, Harshal doesn't have wicket taking options on his own. Like if there is not enough pressure from the other end, uh, teams could just look to play him out, or he will only get wickets when batters are making a mistake. Now, while it can work in bowling attacks which have which have three or four good bowlers, like how it's worked. Nikhil had mentioned this very well when we were talking about Mohit Sharma, that a lot of wickets that Mohit Sharma got was also due to the fact that there was no other release in that Gujarat bowling attack, right? But Harshal has not been able to have that luxury because there are few releases. Hazelwood's injury did not help them. So yeah, these things. I feel the silver lining for them is that Siraj got back to form. Kohli did much better than what I had expected, I feel, and yeah, I mean, these are the silver linings for me, and even Maxwell, I'd say, is sort of a silver lining because for someone like Maxwell to give you 550s in 13 innings or 14 innings is not something that you'd see every day. Uh, Also, what would disappoint them is the fact that they couldn't really use their Indian batting resources well. Uh, Patidar being injured really put them back, and that reflects in the spin numbers that you spoke about. And it was always going to be a factor. And then they didn't really figure out who they wanted to back because last season they gave Anuj Rawat some 7 games as an opener and then dropped him. This season, you felt like they just kept backing him. Mahipal Bromro came in late. He did have an impactful 50 versus Delhi, had an impactful 30 versus KKR when they were playing in Eden. Then Suyesh Prabhudesai had a decent cameo versus Chennai, tried his best but couldn't take them over the line. Biggest disappointment again, I'd have to say Dinesh Karthik. Uh, Probably he ends up getting released, and they'll have to again also look for a wicket keeper who could bat. uh, I have a feeling that someone like, I'm not sure how much is Sam Billings keeping right now, but if they go for someone like Sam Billings, have him at number 5, 6 to play that role of a finisher, maybe he could be that fit, could work. Not sure. That's one of the names that are top of my head. So they need to look at this and they need to structure their batting lineup in a way that it's not top three or bust, which became the case this season. Hopefully Patidar's back next season does well and that strengthens their bowling attack. But yeah, oh sorry, batting lineup. But yeah, one more good spinner outside of Hasaranga who can also be defensive. Like they need someone who can do the job of an Ashwin, because if they had someone like Ashwin, probably their season would have been slightly better. Maybe they would have gotten that one extra win, and would have taken them to the qualifier. So uh, they lost out on the playoff spots by a few fine margins despite having obvious holes in the squad. I do feel somewhere they've performed up to potential given the injuries that were there, given the form and everything. But yeah, it's funny how last year Kohli and Siraj lost form, two of the players that they had retained, And this year, when they had form, Hasaranga did not have a great season. DK did not have a great season. Hazelwood wasn't available. Harshal wasn't available. Faf literally batted out of his skin. He almost replicated Gale's 2013 season or even 2012 season. 700 runs, 750s. It's not a joke, but yeah, it's been a season of fine margins for them. Uh, yeah, potential releases for me. Uh, I think Anuj Rawat they'll have to release. They'll probably have to uh, release. Who did Kedar Jadhav come in as a replacement for?
David Willie.
Yeah. So Kedar, I actually think that they need to keep David Willie and release Wayne Parnell. I don't find the sense of like and Parnell was also a replacement player for Topley. So I did not understand that move. They really need one pacer who can be express 140 plus, can hit the deck. So they need that because Hazelwood's aging. He doesn't have the age on his side. Probably they could sign someone like a Gerard Purji. So there's that. And who else? Who else they could? Yeah.
I mean, because you're mentioning about Hasaranga, I was just thinking maybe Punjab should suggest a cheeky Hasaranga Rahul Chair swap so that RCB get a good leg spinner, Punjab get an X factor leg spinner, and RCB could then invest on an overseas batter, and they don't have to play Hasaranga as a overseas leg spinner, and waste a slot. So I think it could be beneficial for both sides, but we'll have the discussion for some other time.
But yeah, so a few
Yeah,
of their players did not get game time, which is Rajan Kumar, Manoj Bandage, this guy Avinash Singh. So probably I don't think it makes sense to release them because you probably bought them for their potential. Probably you will see them in next season. But yeah, Dinesh Karthik getting released uh, is a very good possibility. Karan Sharma maybe getting released is a good possibility. Wayne Parnell getting released, and what do they do with Finn Allen? Because it's a very I felt one of the reasons that they retained him this season because he did not play last season as well. Because sometimes you want to keep good players so that no other team can also use them, which is why mid transfer season in IPL hasn't been a big thing, right? But clearly they need good middle order batting options now. How because and Finn Allen has age on his side. He has a very good intent. His numbers could improve because obviously he'll improve with time. But yeah, what do they do with Finn Allen? Like, do they release him,
so
try and get a good middle order batter, or should they retain him? It's one thing that can be discussed
so
because I
I
don't
mean,
know.
one thing here. So they have Will Jacks returning, so I don't really need to see a need of them releasing Finn Allen because let's say if there is a niggle to Faf, there is no. I mean, there is a ready-made opener available, so why would you want to risk that when you already have a player for not much money? Uh,
Hmm.
so there are two things that I really strongly feel about RCB. One is the biggest disappointment that anyone should have about their season is it's not just that outside Kohli, Faf, and Maxwell, no one else performed. They were not even to even identify a single player they can say कि भाई this is our future. वो भी नहीं हुआ in 14 games. So that is the
True.
biggest absolute failure of the management. Whoever the sort of big brains there are, I mean, they should absolutely feel an abject failure that I mean, in 14 games, you can't even identify one player in a plethora of players that you auctioned or scouted or whatever. I mean, these days, IPL team and a team like RCB would be spending millions of dollars on player development, coaching them in off season, looking at their, the skill development, so on and so forth. And with all that money being spent, if तुम अगर एक player भी नहीं identify कर पाए, then it's a blunder, to be honest. And obviously, having Rajat Patidar back will, on paper, would make them seem like a good unit. But you never know what is Virat's form next year, what is Faf's form next year, because Faf would be 40, DK would be 38 in 7 days. So, I mean, with RCB, I mean, the age curve is something that I would keep in mind when it comes to potential release. I mean, I feel DK getting released would be a no-brainer because I don't see a lot of upside because there are clear issues. And a team which already struggles against spin, if you have a batter whose entry point you have to define only based on him hitting pace where you already have a lot of players who can hit that, there is not much of a value add, and 5 crores is a lot of money. And they right now they don't have any overseas slot left, so that also becomes a challenge. But having said that, I think Will Jacks will come in. I think Bracewell was the replacement for Will Jacks, if I'm not wrong. He comes into the 11. As I see them next season, I feel that they will need three overseas batters to balance their batting, which means that either they won't be able to play Hasaranga in all games, or they won't be able to play overseas pacers in all games. So they'll have to think maybe an option of not playing Hasaranga and Chinnaswamy and not playing an overseas players in spinning conditions would be the way to go. But they will have to sort of display that sort of flexibility next season.
Will Jacks is someone who had forgotten, so thankfully you mentioned it, because I thought Bracewell was in their initial squad, and that is why I brought up the question that what do they do with Finn Allen?
Yeah.
And that age issue is also something which is they'll have to look at very closely, because Maxwell's also not getting
Yeah,
any younger. I think Maxwell's what
yeah, yeah.
33, 34.
And
So
that's the
there are a
reason.
lot of
That's the reason why I don't want them to release Finn Allen, because I mean they can release him after giving him a season, but without giving him a chance, releasing him would be bizarre given that he's young. If he would have been 35, I would have said that yeah, probably go ahead with it.
So I guess RCB built a team for this cycle, and unfortunately, it's not really paid off. So they need a reset for sure, considering they have like 4 5 players over 35. So no question about that. It's about whether they start releasing now or they do it all together at the mega auction when the next cycle starts. So that is the only thing that remains to be seen, I guess. And I think Somesh is stuck.
Yeah,
Or
just like it is for the fourth, fifth spot, teams get stuck, and this
yeah,
team.
so we have just one more team remaining, and I think
Yep,
Nikhil is taking that. If I'm not wrong,
yep.
it is the great Rajasthan Royals. And what went wrong for Rajasthan, and Nikhil will take you guys through it.
Yeah, and while we start about it, you can see the batting numbers are fine, the bowling numbers are fine. So to use the phrase that is often used after RR games, I don't know. Maybe the phrase that you use, what went wrong with them, because you see the boundary counts, they are positive on both fours and sixes. But again, I think that's where they've come stuck. I think as a side, a lot of us felt that they missed an all-rounder, and they got Jason Holder, and we felt that okay, now Rajasthan Royals will be the complete setup that they have, because you have Joss and Jaiswal up top, Sanju Padikkal, and then you have Hetmeyer and Holder to hold, and you can use Ashwin as well, and you have a bowling attack. But I think for a side as good and as proficient as RR, I think they started great. Winning the first, they were on the top of the table, and it looked seemingly rosy. But I think there were clear gaps that were starting to come up, and I think those have come through. So we'll focus on the silver linings of three players later. But I feel they had a lot of self-inflicted problems. One is the lack of clarity on impact players. I felt as a side, it is too stubborn of you to say that I will not use more than five bowling options. Their win percentage when they used only five bowling options this season is 16%. When they had an option, the win percentage shoots up to 71. It is a massive jump, and again, it is something. It's a common sense thing. If the rule is there, you use it for your betterment. Now, if you don't have the player for it, that's a fault of your squad construction as well. So I felt somewhere they were lost in terms of trying to figure a way that okay, we have Trent Bolt up top. Of course, Prasid missed out, but they got a good replacement in Sandeep, and you felt that okay, now they have Sandeep, you get new ball value there. They tried K Massif in certain games, but he went out, and that's where I felt the problems began for them. Holder was hardly used. So again, in the potential release, Holder is the first person that goes out because you've hardly used his batting. So in terms of batting, they were always sorted that okay, we have a top four. In that too, you felt a lack of clarity in terms of there is a great, of course, firstly the article that Anirudh has put out on Sanju Samson, which will tell you exactly half the reason was RR have struggled in terms of getting to those power scores. because these are all the small things that made them change their strategy. They were a side, they were very keen on batting first. But because the results did not come their way, they lost close games. They were like, okay, now it's not working. Let's try chasing. But eventually they lost 5 games chasing as well. And in all of those games, there was a pattern that Josh Butler, their key player last year, had the worst season while chasing. He had an average of 9.3 in chases. That is, you can take it. It will not happen that a guy scoring 800 plus will have another very great season. But my problem with RR was they never had an option for it. They went with the similar approach that will keep going top hard, but Jaiswal saved them in a lot of games. Sanju Samson's form will, I'm sure it is open for debate that how long can you keep going at the same rate and you can improve as a spin, but you have one of the worst records versus pace. So the dismissal for there was a pattern to the dismissal as well. Entire Rajasthan lineup had the weakest records against left arm pace. So everybody in the top four, Josh Butler, Devdutt Padikkal, Sanju Samson, and Jaiswal, all of them struggle against left arm pace, and you could picture left arm pace getting those batters out. So I felt in terms of options, Rajasthan were always too rigid that okay, this is the 8-9 players and this is the players that will back. So it's a similar problem to what I felt RCB had, that after the top three, you are eventually playing Padikkal as a finisher. You back Rian Parag, which I think is a fair way to go with a youngster that okay, you gave him enough time, enough games to come good. Whether it comes good or not, at least you can say that we gave him time. But I think that inconsistency in terms of backing was with the bowling. Because Kuldeep Sen played handful of games. Kuldeep Yadav played handful of games. Obin Makai was injured, fair call. You can't do anything about it. But you did not replace him as well. So I felt there were a lot of calls which were self-inflicted in terms of the captaincy, the decisions that were taken to bowl Kuldeep Yadav in the 19th over. You use again, if there was injury, then you could have rotated your bowlers better. Not using a Jason Holder against Bangalore, 10 when he did of 2 balls, and you get an Abdul Basit who's playing his first ball of the season. So there is a very thin line being confident and being very brave and falling on the other half. They had an excellent find in Dhruv Jorel, but it doesn't always happen. Teams really don't discover players just like that. Rajat Patidar is a similar example with RCB, that he came in and immediately made impact. Dhruv Jorel came in and he immediately made impact. So it will not always happen for you. So I felt for the squad that RR have, it's not a squad that you will see a lot of people go. I just felt they just had to fix the smaller problems and which are actually having a cascading effect on the entire balance that they have. So these where I feel the problem in terms of consistency with the bowling, because you see only Chahal is there in the top wicket takers, nobody else. Trent Bolt may have done great in day games taking wickets early, but that did not result into anything. And then the inconsistencies of you play Sandeep Sharma as a death bowler, he does well, and then you suddenly go to bowling him 3 in the power play. So I felt a lot of things where, to put it in the terms of Zebis Dhoni, they did not control the controllables. So we'll get to the silver linings, of course, in Jaiswal and Chahal.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a fine point to add. I mean, if you guys can hear me, and apologies for the audio issues at my end. I personally feel that RR are the most unluckiest team to miss out, because if you look at their boundaries, they're net positive on both 4s and 6s, and they are the only team to have that. So that means they were balancing, they were doing the basics of T20 right. The basic of T20s is to hit more boundaries than you concede. So they were good on that front. I think they lost out because on most games, they were 11 men playing versus a team of 12. Because they absolutely had no clue of how to use the impact player rule, or nor they had enough trust in their impact player or the role definition of how they want to use that impact player in certain games. And Nikhil, you spoke about the pace bowling unit. I have a few numbers here. They have this. Their pacers have the second fewest number of wickets, but with the worst balls per wicket record, and their pacers collectively were averaging 1 wicket per game. So that is absolutely nothing. The only hope for them would be for Prasidh Krishna to return next year to bring some semblance. But apart from that, yeah, I mean, pace bowling was an area, apart from obvious ones like Butler not uh, performing as per his skill, and Hetmeyer's form dipping down towards the business end, and Samson obviously his overall approach of how to construct his innings. But yeah, these were a few reasons which I felt that really let RR down.
One
Yeah,
thing
but
that Nikhil mentioned about Obaid McCoy, it brought me, it reminded me of something what they did last season also. Nathan Coulter-Nile was in the squad. He got injured in the first game itself. And I think till the 10th or the 11th game, they did not name a replacement. They didn't even look for a replacement. And Sanju Samson is, I don't know how to, what to say and how to sum up his season, because in absolute numbers, the average of 30, striker of 150 plus looks good. But there were there were at least 2 3 games where you felt that he could have really finished those games and took the team across the line. That the game versus RCB in Bangalore, he had started off well and he had played out Hasaranga, who was supposed to be the biggest negative matchup for him, and then he just got out playing a very cheeky shot. Then the game where they got all out for 59, again you felt that that shot wasn't needed, the shot wasn't on. So with Sanju, I also think that number 3 is not his best position. I mean, I understand you wanting to impose yourself on the game, or you want to you want to dominate from ball one, but when you're batting in the top 3, and you know that your the batting to follow is a little circumspect, you have to you know take into account what the situation is. It's become a cliche that you want to play fearless cricket for a lot of teams, but what you really need teams to play is adaptive cricket. Fearless cricket will not work, especially if the pitches are not conducive to it. That there's a reason why Rajasthan struggled at Jaipur. There's a reason why teams this season have not been able to win games at home. One is because they've had batters who will not suit that pitches, and when you realize that, you have to change your game accordingly. So there's that. And yeah, I mean, it's just been it, you spoke about them having a net positive in terms of boundaries, but if anything, they still have themselves to blame in terms of whatever stuff they were doing and how they lost matches. They lost 7 games. Three losses were for under 10 runs. Then there was the loss versus Sunrisers, which was again, uh, you know, o- in the last over, which they had no business losing after, having to defend 41. Then there was that game versus Mumbai in Wankhede. So these 5 games that they've lost, they could have easily won had they just done the basics right. But you know what Nikhil said throughout the tournament, they just were too cute, to use Nikhil's terminology. Wanting to try out stuff for the sake of it. I can understand wanting to try out stuff when it's not working. Okay, but they just wanted to try out too many things without really realizing that what is it that they are trying to achieve. It's and In terms of what Nikhil had mentioned about Jason Holder, I do sincerely hope that for the sake of Devdutt Padikkal, if not for the sake of Rajasthan Royals, that he gets released, because he's clearly he's himself in a very developing stage of his career. If he has to move up and down around the batting order, he's going to struggle. And it's very important for a batter like him that he also doesn't have to start against spin straight away, because this season he's shown frailties in his game versus spin. The dismissals to Piyush Chawla and Noor Ahmed, his feet went absolutely nowhere. And that is you could have the greatest of numbers, but if that is how you are going to play spin, it's going to be very hard for you to convince selectors that you can play for the senior team. So just hope that he's also released for his own development's sake.
yeah, I think coming to potential releases, I definitely think Jason Ola definitely goes out because any which ways you haven't used him.
Yeah.
Hopefully Joe Root as well. Again,
Mm.
1 CR may not sound too much, but it will help them get a few options with the ball. Both at again, they have too many options in the power play, but you could get a couple of options for the back end and use them in that sense. And of course, you have Dhruv Jurel. You have, I think RR have the options. It is just about fitting the right people at the right places, because there were so many times, as Padi said, you said that Padikkal's best entry point is the power play. Then why is Samson walking out? If you want Samson to take the attack on, send Padikkal in, let him probably say typically anchor, because Jaiswal at the other end was going great guns. He's hit the most fours for anybody this season, 82. That's like 13 more than the next best. So his top year charts, among the top people who have batted, top 8 people who have more than 500 runs, he has the second best strike rate, 163. To score 500 plus runs at that strike rate, it is crazy. And then it's okay because you can accept one of two failures from your other players. Like Hetmar went off the boil, Josh Butler went off the boil. But the thing is, they did not have enough people to surround them with. So hopefully, though, they can release these spots and they can get either a local, an Indian middle order option, because they went after Brook, which I don't know how well or worse it could have ended for them. But so I think two definite areas for them is one, a proper death overs bowlers to partner Obed McCoy if they want to play Obed and Trent Bolt both, because then they'll have to do something at the top. Because if you're going Butler, Hetmeyer, Bolt, and Obed, then you need good Indian core in the middle overs to take care of them. So lots to think for RR in that sense, I feel.
Probably they release someone like Murugan Ashwin and try and get a left arm spinner. They don't have a left arm spinner in the squad.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is also fine. But I think the major
Yeah, it's
concern is
it's
their
not a
batting.
it's not a major concern. It just
Yeah,
gives them a more option. I think probably uh, they could probably try and get Shams Mulani from Mumbai Indians, because
yeah,
Shams
and
Mulani
yeah,
is not used.
yep.
Probably could serve them well. So there's that, and
I was about to say they can probably ask Gujarat to give them Sai Kishore because they are anyway not
Yeah.
using him.
Sai
But that's not
Kishore
happening.
final खेलेगा direct.
I have a
South
question.
Indian core.
I have a question for all of you. What about Donovan Ferreira and Adam Zampa? You guys keep them or do you guys release them?
I'll keep
Adam
Donovan.
Zampa, I think should you can keep because it's only 2 crores. What about Donovan Ferreira?
So with Ferreira, right? I mean, if you're releasing Donovan Ferreira, is like admitting that you made an error in the auction. That's as simple
That
as
is
that.
that I agree.
At least you need. I don't know how he's going to fit in, but in case Hetmar gets injured in one game, or like
Yeah, yeah,
you try him out,
yeah.
maybe.
I think
If,
I think for them, finding that overseas slot has to be through Joru, and finding the purse has to be through Devdutt Padikkal.
yeah,
Simple as that.
and
And yeah,
the fact that somehow Joe Root ended up playing over Donovan Ferreira, even though I think Ferreira was their number one target in the auction and they got him, that itself tells you that they messed up in one way or another. Not exactly sure whether they wanted, they don't think if Ferreira is not good enough anymore, or I mean, surely he must be better than Joe Root in T20 cricket at least, but
I think it's got to do with the pitches that
conditions maybe.
we saw, yeah, conditions that we saw in the later half where they felt that maybe Root could add more value
But
against
but
Delhi,
but that again is
especially their home
also
venue. Yeah,
a
yeah,
mistake,
of
right?
course.
You knew
I
that you're
mean,
gonna play in Jaipur predominantly. Then
I
construct a
think
team that is worthy of.
Gurjit knows my thoughts here. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
honest, wasting
There's
your
one
overseas slot on players like Root, Smith, and Williamson in itself is an error, in my opinion.
there is one Rajasthan player which we did not discuss and we did not touch upon, who's always in the news on social media.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what about Riyan Parag? Because he's clearly been backed enough, and
Yeah.
he's not delivered. But even in that last game, he again it was just those 2 sixes, but he showed like those 2 sixes are enough to tell you that why he was bagged for so long.
Exactly.
So so it's such a difficult place to be in. What do you do with someone like him? Because
I
clearly that
would
finisher role is not working out for him, and when he's gotten the chance to come in at bat at in the 10th or the 11th over, he's still been able to play substantial innings for them. So just how do you go about him?
I think I would still give him one more season because even after backing him for 3 years, he's still 21.
Yeah.
So there is a humongous age curve there, and there is a ceiling to be hit. They have to try him in other roles because right now see at an age of 18, 19, players are moldable, and they've just tried to make a finisher out of him. It has not worked out, but it's not a case where they've tried him in multiple different spots, multiple different roles, and he's failed everywhere. So I really feel, I mean, they should have a swap between Samson and him based on positions. Samson should
Exactly.
rather take because for Samson's own career, right? If he has a vision, obviously he would have that aim for playing for India. And right now, if he wants to play for India, I don't think there is a spot available in the top 5 or top 4. minimum he has to bat at 5 if he wants to play for India in the T20 format. So for Samson's good, for Parag's good, they just should just swap their position and they should just stick with Riyan Parag for at least one more year. Give him a run of at least first 10 games, and if he fails at number 3 and 4 even in those 10 games, then maybe you can take a call later on.
Yeah. I'll
It's the
I'll
same
actually
thing.
go on to say give him the Ridhiman Saha role that you wanted. With of course you have Josh Butler, so you don't need
Yeah,
to break that, but send him in 3 and see
Exactly.
how it works out.
It's a if you don't use Samson as a low value wicket, rather
Exactly.
Parag is
Yes.
getting wasted at 6-7
absolutely.
anyway,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
you have Jurel, who's basically another Parag in terms of the role he
Exactly.
plays. Why
Yeah.
do you need
Yeah.
two Riyan Parags in there? Just use
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
usage of the players are redundant. So just move Parag to 3, give him the license. Like you said, they have nothing to lose. So
Yeah.
if it works out, it great. You persist with him. If it doesn't, then you say that we tried backing you, but it's time we part ways
Yeah.
and move on. That's it.
Hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think with the Riyan Parag note, this is it from us as well for these 6 teams. We intended this discussion to be of an hour, but of course, when all of us sit together, it never is the case. Thanks everyone for tuning in and sticking it with us for close to quarter of a 2 hours now. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow during the watch along as usual, and we weren't able to take questions today in interest of time, but all of your questions will definitely be answered when you uh, ask them tomorrow during the watch along. And of course, please like this video, share it with your friends, and if you have not already subscribed to the channel, please do it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good day until then, and we'll enjoy our day off after what 50 days, 56 days, no game in the evening. Nikhil can actually type end of day stumps at normal human hours today.
Enough T10 games to lose money on. So let's see.
Uh, Wonderful. See you guys.
See you.
That's it.
Take care.
But